Hey everyone, welcome into the 14. I'm Nick Cole. I'm with Christopher Smith, and we're breaking down all of the Week 2 SEC football matchups from a betting perspective. Today, we're talking about South Carolina and East Carolina. The Gamecocks travel to Dowdy-Ficken Stadium on Saturday to play a noon Eastern kickoff on ESPN2. From a betting perspective, this line has moved quite a bit since it opened on Sunday. East Carolina opened as a 2-point favorite, and that has swung all the way to the favor of South Carolina by 2 points. And then on the over-under, it's moved a little bit as well. It opened at 58, and it's down to 56.5. Bringing in our betting expert, Christopher Smith. Christopher, what do you think about the movement on this game?
Yeah, hey, Nick, and hey, Gamecocks fans. It's great to finally do a video on your team. Last week with Eastern Illinois, there's no line usually on an FCS game until Saturday morning. So I'm glad to get into the betting and the analysis of the Gamecocks this season. And first time with a Beamer as the head coach there. But Nick, why don't we get into Nick's news and notes and tell us what's going on around these programs as we enter Saturday's matchup?
Sure. So let's start with some weather and injuries. The forecast for Saturday is not bad. It's 84 and sunny with a low of 59. So we should see a pretty clean slate with no wind or rain in the forecast. From an injury standpoint, the list has been somewhat long for South Carolina, but they're hoping, we'll talk about it a little bit more later, that they may be getting a few of these pieces back. We'll start with quarterback Luke Doty, who missed week 1 with a foot injury. He's been upgraded to probable for Saturday against ECU. And then running back Kevin Harris, who's been out, he missed last game, but he's also considered probable. Some others that are listed as questionable for this week: offensive lineman Hank Manos, defensive back RJ Roderick, defensive lineman Rick Sandridge, and wide receiver EJ Jenkins. And then on the ECU side of things, they've got an injury to offensive lineman Bailey Malavik. He's out for the season with a lower body injury. And so let's just get into some of the news and notes for today's game. Otherwise, I want to go back to week 1. So we didn't get to talk to Gamecocks fans with that Eastern Illinois game and just talk about how impressed I was with the 46-0 shutout win and Shane Beamer's debut in Columbia. It was, of course, it was Eastern Illinois. It was just an FCS team. So, but I think when you've got a former grad assistant starting at quarterback, and you're playing anybody to win 46-0, you got to feel pretty good about where your program's at, heading in the right direction. I think you don't have to look any further than going west to Nashville and Vanderbilt's situation with Clark Lee to see how bad it could be for a coach making his debut against an FCS team. So don't take for granted that 46-0 win. It's a good start for Shane Beamer. The question I have about the Gamecocks going into this game is how will they approach quarterback playing time? I mentioned it earlier about a grad assistant, but Zeb Nolan actually did a pretty good job through 4 touchdown passes in that win against EIU. But we're looking at a situation where Luke Doty is supposed to be ready to play. He's been upgraded to probable. But then if you listen to coaches talk about it through the week, I'm not so sure we're going to see him at 100%. And it makes you wonder just how much they're game planning to have him in the in that script. On Wednesday, offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield said he thinks it's going to be close whether Doty plays, but he did say he was moving around well, so maybe some of that is gamesmanship and trying to keep ECU on their toes when preparing. And the last thing I just bring up is where ECU's at coming into this game. They opened their season at Appalachian State in week 1 and lost 33-19. They allowed 2 100-yard rushers to the Mountaineers, which, if you watch App State football a lot, that's maybe something you've come to expect from them. But ECU struggled to run the ball effectively themselves, totaling just 86 yards and 24 carries, and 39 of that came on one play. So just something to keep in the back of your mind as you're looking at ECU as an opponent for an SEC school here in South Carolina. From a betting perspective, Christopher, what are some of the keys that you have for this game?
Yeah, I do think that Doty and Harris will both play. The question to me is when, how much, and how well. So that'll be interesting to watch, especially because South Carolina plays Georgia next Saturday in their SEC opener this season. First SEC game for Beamer as a head coach. And by the way, this is a huge look-ahead spot for South Carolina. They just crushed Eastern Illinois. They have Georgia on deck. They're having to go on the road at East Carolina. I believe that you said the kickoff is noon Eastern time. So early in the day, not exactly the best spot for South Carolina from a scheduling standpoint to get excited and to get up for this game. Now, I am on the record several times as saying that I'm very down on this South Carolina team this season. And I picked them to finish 6th, I believe, in the SEC East, right ahead of Vanderbilt. And I actually think that outside of the line of scrimmage, they don't have an SEC caliber roster on the field right now. And it's going to take a long time for Beamer to fix that in recruiting. But the thing is that their defensive line is one of the best in the SEC, not the best, but maybe 4th or 5th best. And their offensive line is SEC average, which is good if you consider nationally. And you look at all the preseason magazines, and they all rank East Carolina's offense and defensive line as among or the worst in the entire AAC, the American Athletic Conference. So I do think that South Carolina will have an enormous edge at the line of scrimmage in this game. Beamer can thank Will Muschamp for that little parting gift. At least he left him something there. And you mentioned East Carolina just allowing App State to go for 6.3 yards per carry. And they only ran the ball 24 times for 86 yards themselves. And one of those runs was a long run, an explosive run. So you look at the ground game, I expect South Carolina to just absolutely dominate on both sides of the ball in terms of rushing. And in this game, that's going to be a huge deal. So, Nick, why don't you tell us where you're putting your money on this game and if you see any edges from a betting standpoint?
Yeah, so you mentioned not being super high on South Carolina this season, and I tend to agree with you on that. But in this particular spot, I love the Gamecocks only giving up 2 points. I know they're on the road, but this is not a terrible road trip, and this is a very beatable ECU team. It's not as good as maybe some of the ECU teams that have been really pass happy and been dangerous that we've seen in the past. So I like South Carolina -2. And I actually like the under 56.5. I think it's important, that 56 being a hard number there that you want to be on one side or the other. I think it's important to keep it under that. 8 touchdowns, I feel pretty good there as well. So how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the key to the bets in this game is essentially, is East Carolina going to have any success or explosive plays in the passing game? Now, they do have one super, super fast receiver who got behind App State for a long touchdown on Saturday. And I think that's the key probably to both of these numbers, but I'll take South Carolina -2. I kind of cringe saying that. I don't want to. South Carolina is more of a bet against team than a bet on team for me this season, but I just can't ignore the line of scrimmage advantage. And I expect them to just absolutely dominate this game in the trenches. And then on the total, I'll also go under 56.5. I don't think if South Carolina controls the game, like I think they will, I think they'll kind of use this as a way to slowly work in their quarterback, slowly work in their running back, and get ready for Georgia. But I don't expect to see them open up the playbook all that much. And this is only the second game they'll be putting on tape for the Beamer era. And I don't think they'll want to show Kirby Smart too much of what they have planned. So I'll go with South Carolina -2 under 56.5. For Nick Cole, I'm Christopher Smith for SEC 14. Make sure you watch all our other videos and find other ways that we can get you to the window and make you money this season. And otherwise, we'll talk to you next week.